Welcome back to the channel. This is the next part of our Ford Transit Connect build. What we're going to be looking at today is sound deadening insulation and starting the first steps for our floor. So as always, grab yourself a cup of tea, sit back, and let's go. Who'd have thought it'd be so difficult to put windows in? So this panel on this Ford Transit Connect, there is no recess for a window. So the two windows I've ordered, they can't be fitted in here because it doesn't actually have the recess for it. So that's a little frustrating. So my tact may be now that this has to be a sort of stealth camper van. But we try and maximise as much light as we can in this with plenty of lighting. I mean, at the end of the day, you can have the back doors open and the side door open to give you some light. But when they're all shut up, we do want to actually make sure that we've got as much light in this as possible. So it's not ideal, and unfortunately this is the way this build's going to have to go. I'm not going to be paying out to buy a replacement door because, as far as I'm aware, they're not cheap, and this will have to be a semi-stealth camper. Of course, down the line, the new owner will be able to swap the door easily enough, swap what I do on the inside easy enough, and have a door with a window if need be. But unfortunately, that's the only way I can do it right now. So with that being said, let's start looking at insulation. For our van, we are going to be putting in recycled plastic insulation into all our walls and cavities, and then we will be running a waterproof membrane across the face of it. That will help control moisture from on your van skins getting into your load area. That's the objective with a membrane. Membrane can be made out of bin liners if you like. Personally, I use double-sided full bubble wrap. It's what I've always used for it. But yeah, the idea of it is to solely stop any moisture from outside getting into your load area. So with the recycled plastic insulation, it's really easy to work with. You tear off what you need and stuff it into all the cavities you can. For your larger areas, you apply your spray adhesive to both the panel and the insulation itself, and then stick. If you're running your insulation in with the cabling, you want to make sure that your insulation is behind the cabling. You don't want to have your cables buried within the insulation, as this can result in performance issues. Okay, for the ceiling, because we have such a small height to work with, what we're going to be putting in is some closed cell foam. So this is the closed cell foam in question, Dodo Mat. They produce a closed cell foam, and this has real good insulating properties. So this will get put on up on the ceiling, and that will give us some good insulation up there where we can't normally get in our recycled plastic insulation. So let's go measure and get some cuts done. So this is actually really easy to work with. You peel back and it leaves a sticky side. You apply your sticky side to your panel. So also make sure that you're pushing the insulation into all those grooves while you're applying it to the ceiling. So now our closed cells foam's up, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to tape seal all the joins with aluminium tape, and then we'll be able to get on our double-sided foil bubble wrap, and that will be the roof complete. Okay, with that all tape sealed, what we can do now is apply a layer of double-sided foil bubble wrap, which I use as a vapor barrier. Once that's on, we can then start looking at attaching beams for something for our roof to hang off, and then we can work our way down the walls. Once this is all vapor barriered, also give us our wall to live on. Okay, a little update. I've gone ahead and completed the wiring for our fan with our on-off switch that's obviously built in. Cables run through down same route as the solar, running 12 volts side by side is not an issue. They'll come out the bottom there, and then that's where all our electrics will terminate underneath the bed. So as I said previously, you could even use bin bags as a vapor barrier. I always put this in vans. It's a double-sided foil bubble wrap. You can see all the bubbles. Now, insulation properties on this are very small. Reflective wise for heat is pretty decent. You'll see a lot of people will put this behind their radiators in their house to get the heat to come back into the room instead of soaking up in the walls. So this is what will be going in the van. We'll start on the roof, get that laid in one big piece, and then work our way around the walls, and then finally into the floor. But that'll be for another day, because we'll have more steps for that too. So with this, it's the same scenario: spray glue to the panel and spray glue to the insulation. And the same principles apply with the aluminium foil tape. So we're onto the walls and the same principles apply. But what I'm trying to do is just stick the double-sided foil bubble wrap to the metalwork itself as opposed to the insulation there. So that's the vapor barrier to the walls and the ceiling completed. We've also tape sealed with aluminium tape, so we should have good sort of thermal properties going on in there. I've not done the doors. I need to decide if we're going full panels or part panels like from factory. So the next step now, really, we've got a couple of choices. We can start getting some carpet lining in and finishing off these edges, which I think is probably the best idea. We also need to decide what we're doing with our walls. We won't be going with tongue and groove, purely because I've got materials to be able to cover my walls with ply, and of course I want to be using as much materials that I have laying around the workshop, as opposed to going out and spending more money. So I think we're going with ply walls. The carpet lining option, I'm probably going with anthracite, so we'll have dark walls. But of course, once all this is built, how much are you actually going to see of the anthracite carpeting? I would say not a lot. You know, once you've got a bed in, once you've got a unit in, maybe I could put in some shelves or lockers. This part, decide what we're doing here. I think I want a shelf here with the front, so there may not be that much anthracite carpet lining to view. So let us know in the comments what you think, or what you would do when you're in this situation. The ceiling, I have a few options with a suede lining or what have you, or do I go with something like a white ceiling and go with some lighter interior pieces? I don't know. Let us know what you think. Okay, next up on the list, the floor. So in the floor of this van we have these ribs raised up. That adds strength and also adds the sound deadening property, less resonance coming up through the floor. So most people, or I say most people, some people I've seen have put battens this way to put their floor onto, but we want to maximise the space in this micro camper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 9mm battens and fill in the gaps as and where I need them, and then we can screw through the new floor into those battens. If those battens are glued down instead of screwed down, we don't have any holes in the floor, which is a good thing. And once they're screwed down into the battens, it's not going anywhere, so it'll be fine. So yes, let's do some measurements and cut some floor. So I've just written down on a bit of paper here the length I want. I'm going to take it 192, which is to about here, and then I've gone along and measured out the strips for the width of them. So 60mm, 90mm, 70mm, 70, 70, 70, 70, 90, 60. And then what I can do is make up the timbers, get them all laid out, see if I need to add any more, go from there. So time to break out the track saw, cut our sheet to 192 centimeters. We can then move on to running our strips off in the measurements that we need. So that's our subfloor laid, and we are very, very, very close to being at the same height. So that's good news. Obviously there is a lot of timber in here, but that's a good thing. So our substrate, as in our 9mm floor that's going down, can then get screwed to all these after these are stuck down, which we're going to do next. And then that will give us a real solid base to build off. You know, we need the support. You're walking and climbing in and out of the van here. Your bed wants to be on something solid here. your unit wants to be on something attached, solid. You don't want to be in an accident and your unit's coming at you in the passenger seat. You know, you don't want those worries. So this is why it's so important to have a good subfloor. So now we can use a construction sealant adhesive. I use CT1 or OB1. They're my two go-tos for that type of product. And now we can dab a load of spots on this subfloor, get them flipped over and stuck down. Cool, so that's our floor down, or our subfloor anyway. Now we're going to put a sheet of material over this, and then we're going to put some weight into it, because we just don't want this to have any bows, buckles or anything, because wood being a natural product, it's going to want to do what it wants. So we're going to try and force the issue and get this as flat as possible. So it may look absolutely ridiculous here, but serves a purpose. We've got some weight and that will help keep these battens down and stop any movement, buckling or bowing. So good stuff. We've got to leave that now for a few hours. Once that's all set, we can then go in with our full bubble wrap again and apply it in the same way as we've done with the rest of it. And of course not forgetting to tape seal any joins. Insulating done, let's have a look. So I've entered what we kind of call spaceship mode. Everything's silver. We've just done our floor and we've got our vapor barrier down on our floor. That is all tape sealed in now, all ready to go. The same with the walls and the same with the ceiling. So what we effectively have now is the next a brilliant base for our camper. You know, we're going to have minimal moisture issues in this van, and that's going to be really important for the next owner. So what's next for the build? We're going to be looking at cutting some ply panels for our walls, get them done, and our carpet lining. We're also going to lay a floor and get some flooring down. We're going to use Altro flooring. For me, best in the business. I've used it for the best part of probably 8 years now in camper conversions of all sizes. So yeah, that is my go-to Altro. Do check it out. And yeah, we're going to get a locker in here and what have you. So there's plenty to do still. You know, we've got gas and electrics and hook up and all sorts of bits and pieces. I really want to make this a sort of ready to go van that you can go anywhere you like at the drop of a hat, and that's what we're trying to aim for here. You know, it's going to be nice and there's going to be lots of nice touches throughout this. So this is my take on insulation for this van anyway. There's no hard and fast rules for insulating your vehicle. If you think 20 years ago and even now, people are still using polystyrene in the walls of their vans. You know, things have moved on. You know, we have recycled bottle insulation now, and closed cell foams, and people adding vapor barriers and what have you, whatever type it is. So there's no hard and fast rule. You do what you feel based on all the knowledge that you gather from social media. There's the world of insulation is probably the biggest discussion point on any camper van build. What insulation do I use? What's the best? What's this? What's that? You know, this is just my take. Take from it what you will. Okay, that's it for this episode. Our van is insulated. We can get on with the next steps now. As always, thanks so much for watching. Do hit the thumbs up. Do subscribe down below, and do hit the bell notification so you know when I next upload. And also let us know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.